All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining pretty much at the last minute. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time now. I've actually been working on it for the past few months. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Quincy. I'm a lieutenant in the United States Air Force. I've been in the military now for 10, going on 11 years. I first started out as obviously enlisted. I started off as a crew chief on C-130 as a flying crew chief stationed out in Japan. Then got stationed out in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I loved maintenance so much that I decided to cross train and become a KC-10 flight engineer. So I enjoyed that time while I was there, flying the mission and flying across the pond, refueling and dragging fighters and stuff like that. And then after that, I put in my package to commission. Got some help from some really good friends of mine putting my package together. I feel like they're probably not the main reason, but they were really integral and pivotal into me getting selected. Um, and then I got selected. I commissioned in 2023, and right now I'm just doing my job as an officer right now. But one of the things that I've always wanted to do ever since being commissioned is give back, not only to the enlisted field, but to the officer field as well. So this is just my way of giving back. I am the admin of the page on Facebook, the U.S. Air Force OTS forum. So if you're familiar with that page, I'm pretty sure all of you that are here are from there. But what I did is I created 3 packages. Based off of the packages that I've seen that people have actually sent me, and I've helped out because people send me emails all the time and ask me to just review their package and just give them pointers pretty much. So I created these packages kind of to sample the things that I've seen and what I've seen get picked up, to try and give you an idea on how to not necessarily word your stuff, but to kind of see how competitive you are with applying the commission. So, with that being said, I want to let you know that when I put this stuff together, I was able to reach out to someone who is a good friend of mine, who is a colonel who works at the Pentagon. And he's sat on a few boards, not all OTS boards, but just several boards throughout the Air Force. And I just wanted to get his insight on how he would view these packages I created, because I feel like how I've created them kind of mirror the general synopsis of what most packages look like going through. And so I just wanted to get his feedback and then share that feedback with you guys based off the sample product that I've created. This is my first time doing any type of live stream, so if there's any type of hiccups or glitches or anything like that, just bear with me. I'm currently just trying to test this whole system out. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get started. And you can ask any questions in the chat. I'll look over from time to time just to see if anyone's asking anything. But let's just go ahead and get started. So what I have here is scoring categories overview, right? The way the board looks at it, they look at your education and aptitude, and you can get anywhere from 2 to 3 points. And I just want to let you know, before I go any further, this is as current as I know. Things could change. So make sure whenever you're building a package and whenever you're doing anything related to submitting for officer training school, just make sure you're following the public announcement, the active duty guide on how to actually build a package. And then for the civilians that are out there building their package, just make sure you're following up with your recruiter. And even if your recruiter is taking a long time to get back to you, just don't give up. I'll say that. But let's continue. So education and aptitude starts off with 2 to 3 points, and the subcategories that go into that are academic discipline, education awards, recognition, your GPA, AFOQT scores, and PCSM with your TBAS included. Some of you may be applying for rated, some of you may not be applying for rated, but what your PCSM score is your pilot candidate selection method score, and that includes your AFOQT score and your TBAS, and it all gets combined into this magical unicorn fairy score that I don't know how to explain, and I don't know if I've ever met anyone that knew how to explain it. But that all falls under your education and aptitude. Let me go back and reference the rated. If you're trying to become a pilot or a CISO or any type of RPA pilot or ABM, any rated position in the Air Force, you're going to have to take this test called the TBAS, which is the Basic Aviation Skills Assessment, and it's just a really arbitrary kind of test to measure your cognitive ability and how well you're able to multitask and things like that. There are things out there that can help you kind of prepare for it. It's not a test you can really study for. It's just a test that you just got to go in and take. But if you just do a Google search on TBAS test prep, you'll find some things out there that may help you. But next is experience and demonstrative leadership 2.0 to 4.0 points. So they're going to be looking at your leadership, right? Leadership potential. So what have you done in your enlisted career that can translate into the officer career? And I'm going to write, I don't even have anything to write with, but usually when I read packages, people talk about how good of an NCO that they are and all of these things that they've done. And one of my friends, the one who's actually reviewed these sample packages that we'll get into, he often says, if you're going to tell me how good of an NCO you are, we need good NCOs in the Air Force. So we would rather just keep you as an NCO. That way we know that we have the foundation for the enlisted structure or the listed core that they're being led by good NCOs. So your leadership potential or potentiality, whatever that word is, they're looking at your history on the enlisted side, and they're seeing how it could translate to you being an officer and what your potential and being a leader as an officer looks like. Okay. And then your letter of recommendation. I know that typically you write your own letter of recommendation. You put all the information in it that you need, and then it gets routed up through your chain. And then whoever is signing your letter of recommendation then starts to take out things, add things, whatever they want to do. Your letter of recommendation is essentially supposed to be written by someone else. But if that person is the wing commander or something and he or she doesn't fully know you, of course they're gonna do their vetting. They're gonna see how you are as an individual, because they have to rank you as well. But they're gonna see how you are as an individual, how you are as a leader, and then they're going to write their letter of recommendation according to the feedback that they have, and then according to the information and the meat that you put in your letter of recommendation when you send it up to get signed. And then they're going to be looking at your work ethic, military experience, just regular life experience, your performance, the scope of your responsibility. Sometimes as an A1C or a senior airman, you may feel discouraged because you're going up against these tech sergeants, master sergeants, sometimes even senior master sergeants applying for OTS, and they've been in for an exorbitant amount of years and they have all this experience, and you may be thinking, what can I do that even mounts up to the things that they've done, right? But you have to understand that when the board members are looking at your package, they're looking at your scope of responsibility at the specific rank that you're at right now. So if you're an A1C, they're not expecting you to lead a full shop. They are expecting you to lead in some capacity, but not lead a shop full of, 20, 30, 40, 55 airmen. They're just looking to see what you've done at your current level that exceeds what other people at your level that may have done. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay, and I was told I have low audio, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it up. Let me go ahead and turn it up over here as well. And let me know if that is better as well. So next, we're going to talk about honors and recognition, okay? So I will say when I applied for OTS, I didn't have a lot of accolades or a lot of awards to really reference or put on the package. So where I lacked in that space, I had to make up in other parts of my package. And I'm just going to look to see how the audio is right now. Let me know. Okay, great. So, yeah, I'm just going to look to when I had to make up for the lack in my package in other areas. So, if you are someone who has all the awards, all the recognition, that's great. That's not necessarily going to get you selected because you could have, 99s across the board on your AFOQT. You could have all the awards that you can, imagine or think of. But if you don't show the leadership potential, you may not get selected. Your package score or your board score may not be higher than someone who has no awards. So honors and recognition, awards and things like that, they're important, but don't let the lack of or the excessive amount of kind of let you determine, hey, I'm going to get selected because I got, I don't know, Airman of the Year or NCO of the Year or any other types of awards, okay? Community. How involved have you been in the community? Not necessarily doing, these, I want to say, volunteer things. Like, I think all volunteer opportunities are great, right? They have a lot of potential, but what else have you done in the community that's maybe, a little different from the next person? What have you done in the community that goes a little bit above and beyond? Service and activities or base involvement. Get involved with your base. Get involved with your squadron. Volunteer for those opportunities to, I don't know, put some type of program or event together. Throughout the year, bases have hundreds of events that they involve the local community in, and even if they don't, it's just base events. Maybe a squadron sports day. Did you facilitate that? Did you lead it? Did you put it together? So they're looking at things like that. Did you take the initiative to do something that someone else didn't do? And then athletic skills and hobbies. I don't know how important that is, and I just want to let you know, hey, I've never sat on a board before. But I didn't have a lot of athletics on there. I did have some skills, and I didn't really put any hobbies on my package. But I'm here today. I got selected. I went through OTS, and I'm here today. So I'm not saying it's not important, but the more you can add to your package, but also capture that whole airman concept. I'm sure that's a theme that's been going around for the past few years. That whole airman concept is going to help you, get the best or maximize your score. And I'm going to answer these questions as long as it's nothing to do with the stream, like telling me like there's something wrong. I'll answer all of the questions that are in the chat a little bit later. So next is potential adaptability. I'm sure you could read that for yourself. I'm not going to go through everything, but let's just go through the board voting process. All right, so there's 3 board members vote for each package. This is just based off the knowledge that I have. And I believe I downloaded this PDF from someone on the forum. But the lowest possible score is 6 points and the highest is 10 points per board member, resulting in a total score range of 18 to 30 across 3 members. If there is a discrepancy of 1.5 points or more between board members, they sit down and resolve the difference. So that's just telling you how the board voting works. I hope that makes sense to you. To me, it doesn't really make any sense, but I'm neither here nor there. I'm no expert. Like I said, I've never sat on the board. But for those of you that are wanting to go rated, and I'm going to get to the sample packages in a little bit. But those of you who are wanting to go rated, depending on your Pixum score, as you can see here, whatever you get is the percentage of potential to wash out, right? So the higher you score on the Pixum or the TBAS, the less the percentage is for you to wash out of pilot training. So just take that with a grain of salt. I've seen people with, I will say, 50s in the Pixum score category and things like that, and they are doing amazing in the Air Force right now. And if you get a low score, don't let that discourage you. When I first took the TBAS, I think my Pixum score was a 66 or 56, one of them. I eventually took it again a little later and got it up to a 98, but that's neither here nor there. You can get selected with a lower Pixum score. It does make you competitive, more competitive to have a higher score, but if you get a lower score, don't let it deter you. I would say take some initiative and try and take it again if you can, if you're eligible before the next board. Um, but don't let it be a determining factor. Don't let it discourage you at all. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get to applicant profile number 1. Just let me know if you guys have been able to download these profiles. I will send the link out. I tried to put it in the description, but I had to do this whole verification process to make sure it wasn't spam, and it takes 24 hours. So it's not showing up in the description right now. So I did put it in the comments. So just let me know if you've been able to download it or not. All right, so applicant profile number 1. Some of these names on here you may find a little comical. I tried to use some TV names and things like that. So I watched SpongeBob a lot when I was a kid. But Staff Sergeant Eugene Krabs is applying for a 25 OTS XX. So enter whichever board you're applying for here, right? Stationed at Kadena Air Force Base in Okinawa, Japan. But the first question that you're asked when you're putting together your package is, what are your objectives and reasons for desiring a commission? Now, oftentimes I'll get random emails in my global, and some people are asking me to review their package. And I know there's been a change lately to where you can't get direct input on your narrative statements. They have to be yours and yours only, not getting, outside feedback to change stuff, and they want it to be your words, right? But what I've noticed over the past few years, whenever I'm reviewing packages, and I have this group of me, a lieutenant colonel select, and a colonel who kind of like review packages sometimes if we get the opportunity. But what I noticed with that question is that people will put a lot of things that they've done or a lot of things that they want to do, right? But they don't necessarily answer the question. So what are your objectives and reasons for desiring a commission? Some advice that I usually give is get a Word document, put the question on that Word document, and just write out everything that comes from your heart, everything that comes to your mind, right? A lot of people, when they answer this question, they put what they think the board members want to hear. And what I've noticed is that when you actually put who you are as a person and your whole personality in it, and you tell a story that's compelling and a story that will make someone say, I want this person to be an officer in the Air Force, and you're not giving them fluff or just putting in arbitrary information, the likelihood of you scoring higher in specific sections is going to be better than just putting things that you think someone wants to hear. Because what I've noticed, when you get higher in leadership and higher in rank, you'll be able to weed out the stuff that people just put and add for fluff. And you really just want to see who this person is. So I'm going to go ahead and read Staff Sergeant Eugene Krabs' narrative that I wrote, just to give kind of like an example. And I'm going to go through the rest of the package as well, the next section, and then just the work experience and stuff like that. I didn't fill out everything because, again, this was just a sample package, but I'll go ahead and read it. So, I never imagined myself in the Air Force, let alone pursuing a commission. But one moment changed everything. I was facing eviction, jobless, and struggling to provide for my wife and 2 young children. With no clear path forward, I refused to give up and reached out to multiple military recruiters, willing to do anything to serve. The only recruiter to answer was the Air Force, and that phone call changed my life. Enlisting and serving as an MC-130J maintainer and being stationed in Japan provided my family with stability and a foundation and a future I never thought possible. But more than that, the Air Force taught me that true leadership is a foundation. True leadership is about serving a greater purpose, empowering those around you, and inspiring others to reach their full potential over time. I realized my impact extended beyond my technical role. I was developing airmen, shaping the mission, and fostering an environment of growth, innovation, and resilience. This realization is why I seek a commission. The Air Force needs leaders who are adaptable, inspiring, and forward-thinking, and I'm ready to take on that challenge. As an officer, I would have a greater platform to mentor, develop, and equip airmen with confidence and tools to succeed. I want to give back what the Air Force has given me, a sense of purpose, higher standard, and the opportunity to shape the next generation of leaders. Additionally, my Air Force journey ignited a passion I never thought possible, becoming a pilot. As a kid, I have always been captivated by aviation, but I never believed it could be my reality. Throughout my career, I have learned that success is about adaptability, mission readiness, and seizing opportunities. Earning a commission will not only allow me to realize my dream of aviation, but more importantly, position me to lead airmen in an era where adaptability and precision are critical to modern warfare. The Air Force demands leaders who can bridge technical expertise with strategic vision, and I'm ready to step into that role. So that's something that I thought would kind of sit well on a package. It's not only going through someone's life briefly. You're pulling the reader, you're pulling the board member in by, having a captivating intro. I'm sure a lot of you have heard, like, you need to hook, bait, and sink. I think that's the term like they use in car sales, whatever. But you want to hook the person and make them want to read more of your package. And you want it to be true. You want it to reflect who you are as a person. And in that, I didn't say all of this fluff like I did this and it got up to 98%, or I didn't say any of that. I just told a story that could answer the question and why this person's desire is what it is to commission and what their objectives are as a leader. They're talking about, let me see. Their objectives: give back to the Air Force, give back what the Air Force has given them, a sense of purpose, a higher standard, and the opportunity to shape the next generation of leaders. I think that right there answers the objective part of the question. I'm not going to dwell too much on it because I have a few other packages to get through. I have three of them, so I'm going to go ahead and go to what leadership attributes do you possess that will make you a good officer. That's another question where people, I notice, just list off a lot of leadership attributes I would say that they would believe sound really good, and sometimes they do. But I personally, and I want you all to realize that this is just my opinion, take it with a grain of salt. But I want to know what things you've done as a leader right now. So what leadership attributes have you reflected over the course of your career that have led you to where you are at this moment applying for officer training school? So before joining the Air Force, I had no true understanding of what leadership was. Over the years, through experience, mentorship, and personal growth, I've come to define leadership by a single word: transformational. To me, transformational leadership is about inspiring, motivating, adapting, and leading with transparency, all qualities I strive to embody. To be an effective officer, I believe you must first be you must first be a willing follower, learning from those who came before you, adopting their wisdom, and refining your leadership approach. However, being a good officer is just the foundation. I strive to go beyond good to great to exceptional, and that starts with truly listening to our airmen. Our success as a force depends on an environment where airmen feel valued, empowered, and confident that their innovative ideas will be heard and acted upon. Leadership is not about authority, it's about developing others. My career has been filled with challenges, setbacks, and failures, but each of those moments have been a lesson. I believe failure is often the greatest teacher, and one of my biggest setbacks. And one of my biggest setbacks as a civilian shaped me into the NCO I am today, and into the officer I aspire to be. An officer who encourages airmen at all levels to reach beyond limitations, embrace growth, and recognize their own potential for transformation. I model my leadership approach on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, ensuring airmen's basic professional and developmental needs are met. I believe in fostering an environment where they feel secure, supported, and motivated to excel. This is transformational leadership, the ability to develop, inspire, and empower airmen, ensuring we not only accomplish our mission, but build the next generation of leaders who will take the Air Force forward. So I think just with that statement right there, it's reflecting someone who is not only doing this for themselves. They not only wanted to be an officer for themselves, but they're looking to train the next generation of airmen. A quick story: when I was just an A1C and I was stationed in Japan, I remember my first supervisor teaching me some stuff on the airplane. And one thing that he said to me that always stuck with me is that you think I'm training you to just do this job, but I'm actually training you to be my replacement, because one day I'm not going to be here. And just having that thought process and having those words echo and resonate within me, that goes beyond just, training to do a job. As officers, you're training the next generation of individuals to pick up the mantle once you go on and do something else, whether you're still in the military or you go to another base or you even get out completely. Your job is to ensure that you're leaving something better than how it was when you got there. I hope that makes sense. So I think just that paragraph in itself talks about, the leadership attributes that this person has to not only be a good officer, but inspire generations of airmen that come behind them. And then quickly, work experience. You can quickly just look at this. Not a lot here, but I am going to now transition over to some of the feedback that this person or this false or fake profile got to whatever. I'm just going to go over feedback that I got from my friend who pretty much went over these packages. And like I said, you can download this stuff, look at it, and then just try and get some good knowledge. These are the AFOQT scores. I edited this just to make it seem real, but 83 pilot, 70 CISO, ABM 77, academic aptitude 55, and you can see the rest. And then there are PCSM scores in 88, and they have around 96 flight hours or whatever you want to put there. So this applicant is Staff Sergeant Krabs. I'm going to go ahead and read the feedback that my friend gave me on that specific person, okay? So bear with me for a second. I'm going to go ahead and I'll leave the scores. I'll leave the letter of recommendation up here, and then I'll just read the feedback that this person got. All right. So Staff Sergeant Krabs, I already went over the AFOQT scores. The PCSM was an 88. So the predicted success that this person was rated was 95%. They're predicted to have 95% going through OTS and being a great officer, right? Academics, GPA, the highest degree is a Bachelor's of Science in Aeronautics with a 3.8 GPA. And for the education and aptitude score section, this board member gave them a 2.5. For experience and demonstrative leadership, they gave them a 3. Okay, and then potential adaptability gave them a 2. The lowest you can get in that section is a 2. So these scores are pretty rigid, I would say, but some notes that was given. For education and aptitude, good GPA, average to below officer qualifying test scores, good PCSM, honor society, dean's list. Experience, 4 years Air Force experience. Okay, and then in quote parentheses it says 4 years in Air Force already pinned on Staff Sergeant ? 1 year of supervisory experience, awards recognition at squadron, group, and wing, including recent NCO of the year. And then potential adaptability. This is the notes that were put in here. Strong write-up from colonel/commander. No history of law violations. Calm, right? I'm assuming that means communications. So what the feedback that this package got was that I get a lot of bumper sticker words, phrases, but didn't help me understand why they should be commissioned. Word choice, sentence structure wasn't at the level I expected it to be when applying. I don't think the reference to Maslow's hierarchy hits the purpose of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I'd question how they apply that to their leadership style. So this is just very rigid information or very rigid feedback just based on that application. And so as I was reading, I'm pretty sure it sounded really good, right? And I think a lot of us, when we're putting packages together and we're trying to make it the best that we can, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to full screen. Give me a second. So a lot of us, when we're putting our packages together, we think this sounds, oh my God, this sounds amazing. Um, no one's no one is writing better than me. No one has more things than I do. But when you get an outside perspective looking at your package and someone who's going to be very critical and very, I would say, harsh, they're going to kind of humble you a little bit and make you realize, okay, there are things that I can do to improve this. And that's where that feedback will kind of come in. So here's some summary feedback just for that first package. Officer qualifying test scores are good, but not outstanding. If member is not selected, should look to study, retake AFOQT, and improve scores to be more competitive at future boards. Communication and write-up. I don't know that the Air Force answered the phone is as meaningful as they think it is. For future board, would recommend rewording this to focus on the positive. Overall, I think the write-up had a lot of words, but not a lot of impact. I felt like the member was writing what they thought sounded good versus what actually communicated why they should be an officer. That's just feedback from a colonel. So if you think your stuff is like amazing, still get feedback, and get feedback from people maybe even outside of your career field, because I think that'll be extremely valuable as well. So let me go and see if anyone has any questions, and I'll try and answer them before I go on to the next package. All right, I'm not going to answer all of them, but I'll start at the top. Hang on. I was sorry I'm late. What rank did you hold when you submitted your package? I was a staff sergeant when I submitted my package for commissioning. Where would the best place be to showcase your community service EPB? I think for that, I would say probably just throughout your package, not all in one spot, but sprinkle it in just different areas of your package, because they're not just reading one thing, they're looking over your entire package. So that's where I hope that answers your question. Someone already answered it as well. We can use the new application for the 04 board instead of the old one, right? So I will have to look at the new public announcement. So I don't want to answer that question right now because I don't know for sure. So let's go ahead and go to the next profile. And this is going to be a senior airman child's applicant profile number 2. So let's go ahead and switch over to that. All right, so Senior Airman Childs is obviously a senior airman in E4 in the United States Air Force. They're stationed in Little Rock from the address that you can see, Little Rock Air Force Base. And then their answers to the questions. I'll read them as quickly as I can, okay? All right, so all my life, I knew there was more I was supposed to do, but I could never truly figure it out until the day I saw a commercial with General C.Q. Brown speaking about the lethality and air superiority the Air Force provides while protecting our nation. After seeing that commercial, I knew this is where I belonged and how I could do more. I left college after a little over 2 years and enlisted into the Air Force as a Security Forces Airman. Since then, I've enjoyed every second of learning and thriving in each environment I've been placed. As a defender, I've had the privilege of protecting people, resources, and missions, from safeguarding flight lines and nuclear assets to conducting base defense and law enforcement operations. I led a 3-person team in developing a base-wide security enhancement plan that increased gate efficiency by 23% and reduced unauthorized entry attempts. I also organized and facilitated a cross-functional readiness training event, coordinating with CE and fire emergency services to improve our integrated response time by 17%. One of the most meaningful roles I took on was mentoring new airmen throughout Security Forces Training Squadron. I took pride in helping shape their warrior mindset and instill the discipline required to operate in the high-stakes environments. These experiences revealed to me that the power of effective leadership and the ripple effect it has on mission success, morale, and readiness. Now, I believe it's time for me to step into a role where I can lead, manage, and develop defenders on a larger scale. I want to be a part of the team that sets the vision and guides the force to remain agile, lethal, and resilient. My passion for mentorship, operational excellence, and protecting the mission aligns directly with the Air Force's current need for bold, empowered leaders who can think strategically and act decisively. I'm ready to take that step and help shape the future of our security forces community. I'm not going to give my feedback on that right now. I'm just going to go ahead and go to the next one. So what leadership attributes do you possess that would make you a good officer? So I lead with initiative, integrity, and intensity. From day one in the Air Force, I've never been content with doing the bare minimum, and I'm always looking for ways to improve the mission, the team, myself. I hold myself to the highest standards, not just because that's what's expected, but because I take pride in being an example others can count on. I believe real leadership isn't about rank or authority. It's about influence, accountability, and the willingness to do what's right even when it's hard. As a Security Forces Airman, I've taken the lead on high visibility projects that enhanced base security and strengthened our team's operational effectiveness. I was hand selected to lead multiple flyaway security details and trusted to train junior airmen and augmentees, often in fast-paced, high-stress environments. I thrive in those conditions because I've learned how to make clear decisions under pressure while keeping the team focused and motivated. I also understand that leadership means developing others. I've mentored peers and subordinates, helping them sharpen their skills and push past personal and professional obstacles. And I take time to listen to coach. And I take time to listen to coach to build trust because people don't follow you because they have to. They follow you because they believe in you. What sets me apart is my relentless drive to serve and lead. I'm not chasing a commission for the title. I want the responsibility that comes with it. I'm ready to lead at a higher level and bring the same work ethic, grit, and mission-first mindset that have defined me as an airman to the role of a commissioned officer. The Air Force needs leaders who are decisive, accountable, and able to inspire others to perform at their best, and that's exactly who I am. And then the rest of their package, as you can see, they're currently installation entry controller patrolman, stationed at Little Rock, like I said, and then they were stationed at Nellis for a while. These are some of the things that they've done, and then they were stationed at Lackland, which I'm assuming would be after basic training. That was probably their first base. They have a 3.82 and Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice. It took me a while to find the CIP code because I don't know. A lot of things are different from when I applied. We didn't have to put that down there. But certifications, licenses, they have all this stuff, CPR, Secret Service clearance, Combat Lifesavers course, something that we all have, active DOD, government driver's license, and Security Forces Investigator certification. And then significant professional, personal, academic achievements. As you can see, they are the Sharp Defender Award recipient. They have BTZ, or they got BTZ, Airman of the Quarter, deployed in support of Operation Spartan Shield, and some other things. Volunteer of the quarter over 60 hours, right? They only want to be a security forces officer. I think that's the AFSC. You'll have to look it up. Don't quote me on it. But law violation. I put something that would potentially be not necessarily detrimental, but something that will make someone look at your stuff and be like, who is this person? They got underage possession of alcohol, completed diversion program, and this was in 2018. Next, this is their letter of recommendation. I'll read that really quick since it is short. All right, it is with great pride that I recommend Senior Airman Samantha Childs for commissioning through Officer Training School. As her commander at the 19th Security Forces Squadron, I've had the opportunity to watch her grow into one of the most dependable, mission-focused, and capable airmen in our unit. Senior Airman Childs exemplifies the Air Force core values in both word and action. She has repeatedly stepped into leadership roles beyond her rank, training junior personnel, improving flight readiness, and contributing to the success of critical base-wide operations. Her ability to stay calm under pressure and lead with integrity has made her a go-to asset in high-tempo environments. What sets her apart is not only her performance, but her purpose. She has a genuine passion for service, a sharp operational mindset, and the emotional intelligence required to inspire and lead others. The Air Force needs officers who can lead with grit, humility, and vision, and Senior Airman Childs is exactly that. And then, obviously, the sentence, I fully support her for OTS, blah, 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 blah. If you have any questions, contact me at X, Y, and Z. So that's the letter of recommendation, and Senior Airman Childs was ranked 1 out of 3 applicants from her group who was applying. And as you can see, if you've ever watched the show Severance on Apple TV+, I have Mark Stout, who is the character, as the commander here. But let's go to the scores, okay? So, Senior Airman Childs has a 32 in the pilot section, a 50 CISO, 12 ABM, academic aptitude 38, verbal 42, and quantitative 23. And they're not applying for rated, so they don't have any rated scores. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to full screen, and we're going to read the feedback that we got for this specific applicant. All right. So Senior Airman Childs already went over the AFOQT scores, and yeah, I already went over that. GPA, obviously 3.82, and they have a Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice. For education and aptitude, the score they got was a 2.0. For experience, demonstrative leadership, remember that scale is 2 to 4, got a 3. And then potential adaptability is a 2.0 with a total of 7.0 for the score. So some of the notes that were for this member are low officer qualifying test scores, good GPA, and relevant Bachelor's of Science degree. Experience, leadership, 6 years in the Air Force, supervisory experience, BTZ, Airman of the Quarter, Volunteer of the Quarter, good recommendation from Group Commander, but almost feels like it was half effort, not as glowing as some LORs are. Okay? So potential adaptability. This is where the underage alcohol things comes in. 2018 underage alcohol, read through 90% of Section 1 write-up and still didn't know the objectives or reasons for commissioning. Write-up talks about wanting to be in the Air Force, but not about why they want to be an officer versus an enlisted airman. Last paragraph speaks to leading, managing, and developing defenders, but not all of these NCOs, senior NCOs function as much as an officer. So that's the notes that was for that specific profile. And then the summary. Officer qualifying test scores are lower than peers. A member should look to study, retake officer qualifying test scores, and improve the scores to be more competitive. Suggest member look at write-up, reflect on the question, topic, and focus response on how this would apply being an officer in the Air Force and how the member could achieve those goals. So as you can see, just from those notes and those remarks and that summary, just based off the entire profile that I made up, yes, this person obviously has a desire. They have goals that they want to accomplish. But how does that meet the needs of the Air Force? How does that make you the best fit as an officer in the Air Force? And then to make yourself more competitive, hey, if you don't get picked up this time, don't just go the next time and submit a package again. Do something to make yourself more competitive. And what I noticed, like maybe a few years ago, I was reviewing a package of an applicant that I think applied for OTS maybe 5 or 6 times. I'm not 100% sure. But through those times, they didn't really do anything additional to what they did the previous 5 or 6 times that they applied for OTS. So what the people on the board want to see is like, they're going to see that you've applied before. I'm not 100% certain that they're going to see that they're going to see your last package. I don't think they are at all, but they're going to see that you've applied before. And then they're going to question, what have you done from the last time to this time to make yourself more competitive, to make yourself stand out more? And if you didn't do anything, you're just maybe rewriting your narratives and, putting a little bit extra in it, but you're not really taking the initiative to be more qualified, be more competitive, and show that you are willing to do whatever you need to do to, show excellence in all you do. Sorry to sound so blue, but that's the reality of it. They're going to look to see who's putting in the extra effort to prove to us that you deserve the higher score. Okay. So Senior Airman Childs, although I do feel like just based off the profile, they have a lot of desires and they have a lot of goals, but what are they doing that makes them more competitive? Okay. And then next we're going to talk about the last profile. And if you've watched Severance again, the applicant is going to be Miss Harmony Cobal. And I'll answer a few more questions before I go on to that. Hang on, sorry. Do you use your bullets from your EPB or your job, or do you create new ones? Um, I think based off of the way that the packages are set up right now, you can actually. I think it would be better to stand by. Hang on. I think it'd be better to kind of like make up some new stuff that doesn't necessarily repeat something else that's already in your package. Um, you have to upload your EPB. So those bullets that they see on the EPB, they if you put the same thing, they're gonna be like, okay, I already saw this. But put something else that is, I feel like probably better than what could potentially be on your EPB. That will make you stand out more. I hope that answers the question. And the next question was, will you post this lore as watchable video? I I think I understand the question. After this is over, it should save to YouTube, and you should be able to go back and reference this video, okay? But let's go to the last applicant profile, and that's Miss Harmony Cabal. And she is stationed somewhere in Massachusetts. No, she's actually not stationed. This is the civilian applicant. So let's go ahead and read this. Give me a second. I just need to zoom in a little bit. There it is. Okay. So civilian LO application. Harmony Cabell, 6104, base Lily Court, Boston, Massachusetts. So she's a civilian who lives in Boston. What are your objectives and reasons for desiring a commission? After graduating and starting my career at Lumen Technologies, a defense-aligned computer system company specializing in data architecture and cybersecurity, I quickly learned that while I enjoyed the work, I was still searching for something more. I led teams that helped streamline internal software systems and played a key role in reducing system latency by 37% across 3 high-profile government contracts. But at the end of the day, even with the impact we were making in the tech world, I still felt like something was missing. That something was purpose. I've always wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself, and over time it became clear that the Air Force is where I'm meant to be. I want to be an officer because I believe in it, in the mission, the people, and the legacy of excellence that the Air Force represents. I want to serve my country in a more direct, meaningful way and lead others who share that same drive. My goal is to become a pilot, not just because of the challenge and responsibility it carries, but because I want to be on the front lines of air power, shaping the future of national defense. I've grown a lot in the private sector, learning discipline, systems, thinking, and how to lead teams in high-pressure environments. But I know I can grow even more by stepping into the uniform and serving as part of a team that puts integrity and mission first. The Air Force needs officers who are committed, adaptable, and ready to lead with vision and humility. I'm ready to rise to that standard, and I'm ready to give everything I have to the mission. And then leadership attributes, or which ones do you possess that would make you a good officer? Okay? So while my leadership experience may be considered average in a traditional sense, I've come to understand that leadership isn't defined solely by titles or authority. It's defined by influence, initiative, and the ability to bring out the best in others. Through my work at Lumen Technologies, I've learned to lead from where I stand, and those lessons have shaped the kind of officer I strive to be. In my role as a systems integration analyst, I've had the opportunity to lead small project teams on tight timelines and complex deliverables. Whether I was coordinating between developers and client-side engineers or troubleshooting back-end delays under pressure, I learned to stay composed, communicate clearly, and prioritize team success over individual credit. One of my proudest moments was leading a 4-person integration team that helped implement a system-wide update across 3 government contracts, resulting in 37% reduction in latency and increased client satisfaction. More importantly, I've begun to understand what it means to be a transformational leader. I've studied what motivates people, how to build trust, and how to adapt my approach based on the strengths and needs of my team. I've learned to ask, how can I support you, before asking, can you do this for me? That mindset shift has helped me foster a more productive and respectful work environments. I bring emotional intelligence, adaptability, and a strong sense of purpose to every leadership opportunity. I believe a great officer must be technically competent, but more importantly, they must be a servant leader, someone who leads with humility, communicates with clarity, and inspires through action. I may not have worn a uniform yet, but I've already started building the mindset of an officer. I'm committed to people around me, the mission ahead of me, and the growth still in front of me. And I'm ready to step into the role, the responsibility that comes with leading in the United States Air Force. So I will say that I think that was written really well. I'm not trying to, give myself a pat on the back right now. We'll see once I read the feedback on this package. But I think just as someone who doesn't know anything or don't know much about the Air Force or the military in general, I think they have a good idea on what it takes to be a leader in the Air Force. If you know the TV show on Apple TV, Severance, Harmony Cobell is like the manager of the severed floor, and she's doing whatever she needs to do to make sure that those 4 people working in those cubicles are doing their job, even though there's some sinister stuff happening in the background. If you don't know the show, make sure you watch it. But let's go over work experience, okay? So she's a system and integration analyst, full-time. She manages or leads or supervises 4 people at Lumen Technologies. And as you can see, these are her bullets or narrative statements, as you might say here in the Air Force. And these are just the positions that she's held, right? Her bachelor's degree is in computer science. She has a 3.9. And then she also has an associate's degree in business administration, a 3.67. She has a Security Plus certification, AWS certified cloud practitioner. She has a private pilot's license. I actually did a check ride for my certified flight instructor rating, and I will say that if you're trying to do aviation or anything, my designated pilot examiner got a little bit ruffled when I said license instead of certificate when I was doing my check ride. So it's technically a certificate, not a license, because it's a card and it says certificate. But Harmony Cobell has her private pilot's license. You could say private pilot certificate on there if you need to. And then certified Scrum Master. Okay, and those are her certifications and licenses and dates and stuff like that. Significant professional, personal, academic achievement. She was nominated for a Lumen Innovator Award, volunteered 100-plus hours with STEM mentorship programs, and promoted to Systems Integration Analyst within 1 year of her time working at Lumen Technologies. She wants to be a pilot and then also a helicopter pilot. Those are her 2 preferences. And no law violations, no prior service, no professional military education, obviously. And this is just a quick, down and dirty letter of recommendation that I wrote up for her. So from Lumen Technologies to the Officer Training School Selection Board, it is with sincere confidence that I recommend Harmony Cobell for commissioning through Officer Training School. As her direct supervisor at Lumen Technologies, I've seen her grow into a capable, driven, and self-aware professional with enormous potential. Harmony is dedicated, sharp, and mission-focused in her role within our data refinement division. She's managed sensitive operations with discretion and clarity, always placing team success above personal gain. What stands out most is her ability to remain calm under pressure and her willingness to take initiative when others hesitate. Though she came to us without formal leadership experience, Harmony has developed into quite a force of stability on our team. She leads through action, uplifts those around her, and constantly asks how can she contribute more. She's exactly the kind of person who will thrive in the structure and challenge of the United States Air Force. Someone who doesn't seek recognition but instead seeks purpose. I wholeheartedly recommend Harmony Cobell for OTS. The Air Force will be better with her in uniform, not only because of her professionalism and intellect, but because of her unwavering desire to serve something greater than herself. Now, before I go to the feedback, I will say a lot of packages that I've seen get selected oftentimes, and my wife talks about this all the time. She's like, why is the word unwavering always in a package? It was in my package. It's been in other packages. I don't know if that's just like a keyword that, makes people pay attention to your stuff. I'm not saying put it in your package, but I've seen the word unwavering has a little bit of success, and that's just a little sidebar humor. But For AFOQT results, as you can see, Harmony Cobell has a 99 pilot, 96 CISO, 97 ABM, 86 academic aptitude, verbal 67, and 91 quantitative. For her to work at Lumen Technologies, which is a data analytical company or whatever, I would assume her quantitative abilities, which is the math portion of the AFOQT, would be super high. I don't think I've ever seen anyone with in the 90s for quantitative. Maybe they are, but I haven't seen it recently from what I can remember. And then her PCSM score based off the TBAS. She already has her private pilot's license, so as you can see, flight hours are maxed out at 41 to 60 plus, so she can't get any higher based off of, getting more flight hours. She has 60. Her PCSM score is a 97, AFOQT pilot 99, and obviously this is the version of the test that she took. Okay, so let's go to the feedback for this specific applicant profile. And I just saw the question that was asked. I'll go ahead and answer it after I go through this, okay? So for Miss Harmony Cobell, I already went over her scores. Predicted success is a 97%. She has a 3.9 bachelor's GPA for her bachelor's of science. So from educational aptitude, education and aptitude, you get 2 to 3 points. She maxed out there. She got 3 points. For experience, demonstrative leadership, you get to go between 2 and 4. She got 3.5, so she's 0.5 away from maxing out. And then from potential and adaptability, she got 2.5. You can go from 2 to 3, so she split down the difference. So that brought her total score to a 9. Now imagine if there's 3 officers on a rated board that are scoring these packages. And I think depending on the amount of packages, they may bring in someone else. I don't know for sure. We'd have to get with the program managers to ask that question. Or rated boards may have different rules. But for a rated board, there's 3 lieutenant colonels or lieutenant colonel selects on the board. If all of them ranked her a 9, 9, 18, 27, she would get 27 out of 30 points. I would say that's probably a definite for getting selected, okay? Now, some of the notes for this specific profile. So, education aptitude. She has a high PCSM score, high GPA, and technical specialty. Experience, leadership. Good write-up from civilian supervisor. Member has PPL, PPC, private advisor certificate. Professional IT certs and supervisor experience, 2 years in the defense industry and 4 years in the industry. And then potential and adaptability. No history of law violations. Member clearly stated reasons and touched on objectives. Could have used the available space to expand on both areas. Member articulated their attributes and I think got to an 80% effective answer. And then the summary and feedback just for this profile is officer qualifying test scores are higher than peers, all around high scores in all evaluated areas, high GPA and PCSM scores. Member has good experience in the defense industry. So just with feedback like that, like I said, I think you can pretty much automatically assume this person is going to get selected for OTS. The board doesn't select you. Your score determines if you're selected and if the job is still available once all of the scoring is completed and the jobs have been given out. But for Miss Harmony Cobell, I think one of the things that stood out when reading these notes is that for the members articulating their attributes, an 80% effective answer. I've never really seen that before. Is someone saying you've answered the question 80% effectively. So I think that's super higher than the others obviously. But you want to make sure that you're answering the question 100%, okay? Or as close to it as you can get. Another thing that stood out to me was that the feedback was given. They could have used more space. If I go here. Okay, could have used more space in this section to kind of answer the question more. Here's where I may have a little conflicting advice. I would say, as long as you are getting your point across, I don't believe it needs to be filled up all the way. Yes, you can utilize more space, right? But as long as you're answering the question and you're answering it effectively, you don't need to fill this whole area up because you got to realize that whenever there's an OTS board, there's hundreds, sometimes maybe 1,500 applications, depending on the type of board that you're applying to. But there's hundreds and or thousands of applications that three or maybe four, I would say three for right now, three people are going through, and they have a week to get through all of these packages. That's nonstop reading, nonstop reading. And you saw how long it just took me to go through these. Granted, I am talking and giving feedback as I'm going along, but don't want to make something so massive where the person feels maybe a little overwhelmed, like, man, I have to read this thing. Because to be honest with you, they're probably just going to read the beginning and the end and skim the middle and see like how you kind of made it into a sandwich, if that makes sense. So be clear, concise, and correct, I would say. And then also add your meat and potatoes. Don't add a whole bunch of fluff. Read your stuff objectively. I think that's the word I want to use. Read your stuff objectively and say, does this really matter? Okay, how does this make me stand apart from the next individual applying? Let's say you and your coworker have similar careers, or a similar year, let's say, and then it's like time for your EPB or your EP. I'm not gonna say EPR, but it's time for your EPB to be written, and you guys have been, racing against each other, a nice healthy competition. What are you going to do that gives you the competitive edge over that next person? Because by the time you get to the Officer Training School board, it's probably like the top 10% of people in the Air Force, maybe even less, the top 5% of people in the Air Force that are getting the opportunities to apply for these boards. So I'll definitely say, like, hey, make yourself stand out, go a little bit above and beyond, put in the extra effort, and I think it'll kind of help you set up for success. So while I'm thinking about other things to say to try and give as much advice as I can give, I'll answer these questions. Do waivers need to be approved prior to submitting your package? I think that depends on the type of waiver that you're applying for. I know for age waivers, I believe those need to be approved. Any type of medical waivers, I believe those need to be approved. But to get like the no BS answer, I would say, hey, reach out to those who are the program managers. I know you guys are here from the Facebook page, so I would even put that on there and ask, and maybe one of the program managers will reach out. But just from my experience, the program office, they're not the people who submit like age waivers and medical waivers and things for you. From my understanding, that stuff needs to be taken care of before you even go to the board, because without those waivers being approved, you're technically not eligible to apply for the board or a specific position that you want for. Let's say you want to be a pilot. If you're not medically qualified to apply to be a pilot, they can't select you to be, they can't select you or give you the job of pilot and then say, okay, now we're going to submit your stuff to see if you get, approved. I think that stuff needs to be done prior, because if it was done that way, you could be taking away a selection from someone else who is qualified and competitive to be that pilot and taking away their slot, if that makes sense. One thing I wish they'd do is release our board scores like they do for enlisted testing. I would agree and disagree with you. The reason I would agree is because I think as A-type personalities, or just us in the military in general, people who are trying to apply for the military, they always want to see where they can improve, right? So having that tangible evidence of like where you are and what can you do to improve, it kind of helps you prepare for the next time. But I would disagree at the same time and say like, hey, you didn't make it this time. What things can you do? Or let's say I applied and I didn't make it. I would think to myself, okay, I didn't make it. What can I do to improve myself for the next time? And then that also involves getting feedback from outside entities, maybe feedback from people not in your career field. Give your application to someone who has nothing to do with the military and see what their thought process is on the things that you've submitted. And then also seek feedback from higher leadership, because they have I feel like once you get to a certain rank, you just have a certain lens how you look at documentation, how you look at what people say, and you're able to sift through the nonsense, and you're like, this person deserves this opportunity. Now, the Air Force isn't perfect. We don't have perfect leaders. I will say that, but I think 9 times out of 10, that person is going to look at your stuff and kind of like tell you, hey, this is what you can do better. This is what you can do better. You can take this out to make this like kind of match and be better, right? So that's why I would say I don't think you necessarily need the feedback from the boards, because it's up to you. This is where they're kind of like testing you. It's like, okay, you want to be an officer, figure out a solution to an issue. Your issue is you didn't get selected this time. So figure out an issue and how you can get selected the next time. And I hope that makes sense. That's the best way I can put it. Next is, my squadron commander gave me feedback that I was doing well as an NCO, and the board may not have seen fit to take me away from this. How would you recommend showcasing your time and skills as an NCO to the board? I think that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. Like, the person who gave the feedback for these packages, every time we're on like a group call or we're talking to one another and we're talking about OTS packages, his statement is, if you are a good NCO, a great NCO, I love the fact that you want to be an officer, but I need good NCOs. So I don't have a specific answer for you right now. I don't want to disappoint, and I don't want to just throw out some nonsense. If I really had to think deeply about that question, if you're doing a good NCO, but the board is going to say, hey, we need them and want to keep you there, I would say look at some opportunities that reach outside the realm of the responsibilities of an NCO, if that makes sense. Look at some things that junior officers do, like CGOs. Look at some things that second lieutenants, first lieutenants, maybe captains would be put in charge of to accomplish, and see if you could do some of those things around your base, around your group, your wing, your squadron. And don't do it just to look differently on a package, but do it out of a genuine place. Okay? I hope that makes sense. All right, the next question. Would you recommend to do a master's if your bachelor's is a 3.0, pre-ChatGPT, and AFOQT is minimums? I don't want to say I would recommend anything. I think when it comes to submitting for the board, it's the board's job to tell you yes or no, right? And you're never gonna know that answer unless you put your name in the hat. So if you kind of count yourself out now while you are trying to put together a package and you're like, I don't think I'm competitive, don't tell yourself that. Let someone else tell you that, okay? As far as the GPA and the AFOQT minimums and things like that, I wish I had my package readily accessible. I would pull it up and I'd put it on the screen right now. But I will say my GPA was a 3.4. And when I first applied, and I only applied one time and got selected by the grace of God, and it was a blessing. But my scores were not the highest. My quantitative score was an 18, if I'm not mistaken. My verbal score was a 27. My academic aptitude was an 18. My CISO score was, I don't even remember what that was. I remember when I applied, my pilot score was a 66. 56 or 66. I always get it confused with what my Pixum score was at that time, too. I got selected. Now, this is, a new time. This is a new day. Things are a little different. Scores may be looked at differently, because even with those scores, if I would have applied in 2018 instead of 2022, I genuinely feel I would have gotten picked up for my number one, which was manned pilot. I got picked up for RPA, and that gave me the opportunity to get my foot in the door to do something great, right? But now in this current career field, I think it made it a little bit more competitive because I had to retake the AFOQT because I still want to go manned. I still want to fly in the air. So I had to retake the AFOQT, get my pilot score higher. It's a 99 now. And then I had to retake the TBAS, and I got that score up to a 98. In addition to like some civilian things that I've been doing on the outside. So I've been doing what I could to make myself as competitive as I can be, going up against other rated individuals for this upcoming undergraduate flying training board to get picked up for UPT. But I went ahead already when I first applied for OTS. I had my private and my instrument rating, and then after OTS and after getting done with RPA training, I finished my commercial rating, and then I did my flight instructor rating, and right now I'm doing my multi-engine rating. I'm as well as in addition to doing my best to kill it at work as well. I will say, not even just for rated, but when you have been in the military and you've been enlisted for I would say a good amount of time, 8+ years, 10 years, you don't have the same drive as the younger airmen or the younger lieutenants have if this is their first exposure to the military. Especially if you have a family, you begin to prioritize family and all of that stuff first. And I feel like I'm going on a tangent, but I'm going somewhere here. You prioritize family, so you have to put in a little bit extra effort to make yourself stand out. Not even if you're an officer yet, but even if you're enlisted, you got to put in a little extra effort to make yourself stand out and set yourself apart, as opposed to those who may not have, the wear and tear that you may have as an old crusty staff sergeant or tech sergeant. So if you have the minimums, I would say apply. You don't need to have a bachelor's degree. What you can do is you can maybe start. I'm sorry, you don't need to have a master's degree. I think I said bachelor's. You don't need to have a master's degree, but I think it would show some or give you some good points, or I don't know, give you good points if they see that you've started on it, what you're doing to continue to improve yourself. What I've noticed in the officer side of things is that a lot of it is about self-development, not only developing other people, but what are you doing for self-improvement as well? Yes, it is harped on in the enlisted side of things, but I feel like it's harped on more as an officer, because it's like you are being charged to lead an entire squadron one day, or a group or a wing. What are you doing professionally to develop yourself, to equip you with the tools necessary to be that leader? Okay, so that's higher degrees, that's more certifications, that's all of these things. And that's why I do believe officers are given the opportunity to get the military essentially to pay for higher level learning, because it eventually, if you stay in the military long enough and you're just that officer, you're going to rank up. Obviously, you're going to be given more responsibility. You need to have the educational aptitude and the ability to lead that unit that you are a part of or that you're in. So if you have the minimums right now, apply. If you want to start on the masters, start on it. It only makes you more competitive. The next thing is, okay, if the rest of the package is strong, but the AFOQT scores can be better and essays were decent, how would that rate a package? I'm not sure if you've been here the whole time, but if you go back and kind of watch this video on the back side of it, I think that question will kind of be answered. Yes. So when I think that's where I talked about, you're kind of making up for the differences, right? When I applied, I didn't have the best scores. I think I just went over them. I didn't have the best scores, but I had to kind of make up for it in other parts of my package. So not to overshadow the lower scores, but to show hey, these scores don't define who I am. I can still be a leader. I can still be effective. I can still be the officer that the Air Force needs me to be. I just don't have the glamorous scores that a lot of people other have. And even with that, you'll have people that have 99s across the board and then have not as well written narratives. They have the educational aptitude, I would say, but not necessarily the leadership aptitude. And you have to kind of like be careful not to become that person, not be so focused on metrics that you're forgetting to be a human being at the same time, and you're forgetting to be a leader. I'll go to the next question. Hi, would a leadership course from online sources like Coursera help make my application stand out? I would say yeah. Like if you, I just said like self improvement, self development. It is highly looked upon in the officer community. So as long as you're doing the things that you need to do as enlisted or a civilian to pay it forward and give back and train and mentor and develop other people, but in the same facet you're still doing things to kind of help yourself out, help yourself become a better person, they're going to see that. They're going to see that leadership potential. They're going to see that adaptability, how you can adapt to different environments based off of the education or the courses that you've gone through that help you become that better person. I hope that makes sense. So I'm not seeing any more questions. What I'll go ahead and do is I'll wait for maybe 2 minutes before I bring this to a close, and I'll have like a little bit of feedback for people that are applying and putting their packages together. But what I will say is that you have to kind of make yourself stand out. I think that's been the theme throughout this whole video. You have to make yourself stand out. If you blend in with the rest of the good NCOs, if you blend in with the rest of the good airmen, if you blend in with the rest of the civilians who are applying for OTS, you may not get the results that you want. So don't stab other people in the back, but do the things that you can do to make yourself competitive, whether that's getting an additional certification, additional license, maybe even just a writing course to help you write better. As you have, I'm sure as most of you have seen, the requirement for you to write your own stuff is being harped on right now because a lot of people were getting help, and I will say that was probably a contributing factor to helping people put their packages together. But be able to write what you feel inside, and that sounds really sappy, right? But they really want to know who you are as a person. And that's the feedback that I can give. Make sure that you, when you go through the public announcement, the pretty much the guide, or the program announcement, I think that's what it's called, that you're following every detail to a T. You're reading every single sentence. You're reading every little word and letter and making sure that your package reflects the attention to detail that you put into reading the program announcement. A few years ago when I sat down with one of the old program managers when I was TDY to Randolph Air Force Base, he said one of the things that stood out about my package was the attention to detail. And he said that there are some people that just upload things that don't necessarily make sense. And that's an immediate red flag to those officers who are reviewing your package. So if you put in the amount of attention that you need to, and you go above and beyond, it's going to reflect throughout your whole package. And that starts with reading the program announcement and following the directions to a T. And sometimes there are going to be things that kind of contradict each other, but that's where you can maybe seek information from other people who have applied, and you can get some type of feedback and you can get some advice to point you in the right direction, because it's not all going to make sense. But if you're reading it with an objective lens and you're following the details and you're following the instructions, it will be very simple. I think when I was putting together my package, I didn't have to reach out one time to the email, the org box. And just to let you know, if you do that, it will clog up the org box. So try your best not to email them. And if you absolutely need to, like for extenuating circumstances, I would get your leadership involved with emailing and not emailing them yourself. So yeah, paying attention to detail, being who you are, seeing how you can be the best officer you can be and how you can contribute to the Air Force, not just take. You need to be able to give back. And show the potential, I would say, to pay it forward as well, is the Air Force investing in you to become an officer in the best interest of the Air Force. You got to realize, like, yes, you want to be an officer, but the Air Force is always going to look to see, hey, is this in the best needs of us? The Air Force is always going to have the Air Force first. There are a few more questions that I'll answer, and then I'll go ahead and bring this to a close. So you said you're RPA. Yes, I am RPA. Is it frowned upon if you don't have many NCO qualities? Quarterlies. Will team quarterlies still stand out? I will say that when I applied, I had one award, and that was NCO of the month. I think I had a few other awards, but those are more like team awards, not individual awards. So I will say that it probably does not hurt you to not have a lot of quarterlies or awards and stuff like that. If anything, it'll just help you to have a little bit more. Can you stand out too much in wanting to take care of the airmen around you and below you? I don't think I understand that question. Can you stand out too much? I think if you're genuinely doing it and you have if you're genuinely doing it and you really want to see people be successful, it's not going to be standing out too much. It's just going to be what your character is and what you are doing to better the force around you. So I would say if you're just doing it just to do it, it may be looked at as like, oh, this person is just doing this just because. But if you're doing it with no malice in your heart and you're just genuinely doing it, I would not say it would stand out too much. Only I had 2 awards. Okay, somebody was answering the question. Okay. Christopher Anderson said, can you provide information on cyber direct commissioning? Unfortunately, I don't know too much information about, just the onesies and twosies. Not to say that your way of commissioning isn't important. It is super important. When I was at OTS, there were a lot of people that were cyber direct commission individuals. But myself, I don't have the information on that, and I don't like to speak on things I don't really have a lot of education on. Okay, somebody's asking to share a package. Okay. I think that's it. There's no more questions. So I really hope that this whole video kind of helped out as many people as it could have. I hope that more people will watch this in the replay. But if you ever have any questions or if you just want any type of feedback, as long as my life permits, I'll do whatever I can to help out where I can. But yeah, just reach out to me on Global. My name is Quincy Brayton. If you go on Global, just type that in, you'll find me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you all have a great evening. It's about to be 10 o'clock on the East Coast. So it's not 7 o'clock where I am on the West Coast. So hope you all have a great evening. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for jumping on at the last minute. I just wanted to do this for the past few months, and I figured this would be a great opportunity to do it. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evenings. Goodbye.